sympathy for the human condition keeps us all in wonder.
Two things. Don't touch me, and I think you pissed your jammies.
I like you!
I'm Sam Loudermilk, 4 years off the sauce, and I'm super duper excited. Yay! How many days you sober? No, you're lying to me.
Okay, I had a few beers.
What kind of beers?
Coors Light.
That's just like water. That doesn't count.
Really?
No, of course it counts, you dope.
I've received numerous anonymous complaints about the way you're leading these meetings.
It's the bingo bitches, isn't it?
Let's face it, you're not warm and fuzzy.
Come on, pick it up a bit. Let's go.
This guy body checked me on the stairs.
He's old. They exaggerate.
You're hard and uncomfortable.
There's no reason to have beards like that in this day and age. Are you lumberjacks?
As your sponsor and your only friend, you really make it hard for people to like you.
I would hate to have to suspend your meetings. I need a favor. Mrs. Wilkes is an important member of our church.
My daughter, Claire, she's gotten out of control.
Your mother says you need professional help.
My mom won't let me come over until I've cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, you smell like a spicy sausage fart.
I'm gonna try something different today. You ever hear of a vision quest? It's a very special place. Close your eyes. Smell the air. Smell you later, sucker! I'm a counselor for people who've used drugs and alcohol. I'm dealing with people who stack lies on top of lies all day, and you gotta be sometimes blunt. You gotta be a little harsh.
You piece of trash. I came to you for help, but you did nothing. Actually, you made it worse. I'm leaving!
Took you down a very emotional road last time, and now you're all sitting here on your hands, except Roger.
Guess what I've been doing?
No, I don't play that shit.
What the hell were you doing in a bar? Guys like us can't do that.
You gonna stop pushing old people downstairs?
Can't make any promises.
Hurting yourself is easy, but living is hard. That's the thing that brought us all here. Invest in yourself, you dumb The teenage girl that I came in with, you know I'm not hitting that, right?
Yeah.
Ron, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks for trusting me with my own microphone.
Can I trust you with it? I mean,
yeah,
it's an
sure.
assumption we make about everybody that
absolutely.
comes in. Congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
Let's talk about how you got involved, because it's not like one of those things where I would imagine you just audition or go in. I mean, you're the lead of the show. It rests on your shoulders. I'd imagine Peter Farrelly and his crew went out to you for it. They were interested in having you do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a both ways kind of thing, because once they decide that they're going to make the show, they start, thinking about who they're going to want to have doing it. And of course, I'm always thinking about, well, I'd like to have another job, so I should look around for opportunities to do one of those. And so, like, I think, I was interested. It's a little bit like dating in 7th grade, because it's kind of like, well, if I liked her, do you think she would like me if she knew that I might like her if she liked me?
Like, no one wants to find out that someone doesn't like them.
So you have to have these go-betweens to pass the notes back, the agents and the blah, blah. But then eventually, you get me and Pete on the phone, and I just, he's great. I really loved what he had to say about it. I already knew I wanted to do it. The only thing that made me nervous is that, Pete's a comedy master, but his stuff was always, like, I remember Something About Mary came out the year before Office Space came out, right? And there was this big cloud, because they're both Fox movies, there's this big cloud that they wanted Office Space. They thought it was going to be a big, like, broad, physical, classic comedy.
It's much different. It is a classic comedy at this point, but
my stuff is all like I throw it away and it's dry and it's underplayed and whatever. So I was a little nervous that like I was going to get fired on day 3 and really let Peter down. But
you thought that he was going to bring you in and sort of try to get you to be kind of big and broad.
Yeah, we didn't quite know what you know what I mean? It's his first foray into television.
His first foray into, I would say, dramedy rather than broad comedy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, certainly. Although I feel like his book, Comedy Writer, is a little bit dramedy in novel form. But he's got this great energy to him, where he's a little bit like that 15-year-old kid who's got this mischievous glint in his eye, and he just loves to poke all the buttons that you're not supposed to press, He's like pulling the comedy fire alarm. And but it's none of it's in. He doesn't have a mean bone in his body, so it's like you're doing stuff that seems like you're being mean, but it's not. It's really not actually.
Similar to the character himself. He has this thing where he likes to push all the buttons. He likes to say the wrong things, but he's actually like a fairly decent person, or at least trying to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of the Frank Capra mind that, you know, inside everybody there's a spark of a decent person who's, you know, who put on earth to make the world a better place. But
it's a tough thing to say these days.
It is a tough thing to say, but what, you know, what are you going to do? That's just kind of how I feel about it. But the fun thing about playing a character like this is it's really fun to just bury that spark so deeply that you don't think you're ever going to see it come out. You know what I mean? But you still know it's there. So I think that really gave us the opportunity. I looked at this guy as like a guy that somebody like Walter Matthau would have played 30 or 40 years ago. He just... You know, he's got sand in his drawers. He hates everything. Everything gets him, you know, aggravated, and he takes it out on the world around him.
He's a Bad News Bears coach.
The Bad News Bears coach, yeah. You know, and he's kind of a miserable, dry drunk, and you know, and then the fun of it is that he's in a position where his job is actually to be, you know, he runs a support group, even though he's not really capable of supporting anybody or anything really. You know, he can barely support himself.
Well, no, but I think the idea is that, I don't mean to disagree with you on your
tell
own
me, man.
show.
Tell me.
You've done more work on this than
I gotta
me.
say, no, this is the great thing about the show actually coming out, is because for a year, I'm the only one who's seen it. So I'm it's just me sitting in a chair talking about it, but I don't have the perspective of it. You know, I'm really excited that some other people are gonna get to tell me what the damn thing's.
I mean, he runs a support group for a reason, not just because that's how he can make a little money. I mean, he runs a support group because he wants to help people, but he has a means of helping people that isn't what we're used to seeing or what most people would do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the way that I came at this was that he's got, you know, his kind of tragic flaw is the same thing as his kind of superpower, which is he does not have the ability not to say exactly what he thinks at any given moment. He you know, and he used to be a rock and roll critic, and it's every fiber of his being cannot resist looking someone in the eye and telling them all the ways in which they suck, you know? But the beauty of that is that every once in a while in his line of work, that's exactly what somebody needs to hear. They need somebody to give them the unvarnished truth about where they're at and what's going on. And like once in a blue moon, there's somebody who actually finds that useful, and that's kind of that's the fun of it to me, is somebody, you know, banging around, saying a ton of inappropriate things, and then every once in a while, one of those things being helpful to somebody.
Right. Well, every now and then, one is a gem.
Yeah.
The rest are
one
like
is a gem, and he has no idea which you know what I mean? Like
daggers,
idea.
gem,
yeah.
like kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One of the things that you kind of just said is you were talking about something about Mary versus Office Space, and I think you versus that as well, which is that you're kind of dry, and you said you sort of bury things. Was that something that occurred to you that you do, or a tone or a style that you noticed you had, or someone told you and you keep doing?
No,
you don't
I mean,
necessarily...
I'm familiar with it, and just a lot of the guys that I came up admiring, you know, were like Charles Grodin, you know, Dustin Hoffman. It's a lot. It was just that's kind of the style. That was a style that I was really kind of drawn to. It's just kind of dry and thrown away and underplayed, and they might actually miss the joke if they're not paying really close attention, you know. And Pete's stuff historically has been you're not going to miss the joke,
No.
right? The joke, and you're not going to ever forget the joke. The joke's
the
gonna
Three
stay in
Stooges
your-
movie, yeah.
the joke is right there. So I felt like this was a really great opportunity to work with a guy who was not going to let the audience miss the joke, even though I could play it, you know, I could throw it away and he would find a way to go, oh yeah, but it's gonna land. You're gonna throw it away and it's gonna land. So that's a lot of fun.
You know, when Office Space first came out, it wasn't a big hit, right?
Yeah.
It took some
no, not at all.
It took some time. Did you feel?
It took some cable. It took some cable and some DVD, is what it took.
Did you feel? Did you sort of question how you played the jokes in that movie when that happened or anything like that? Because
No.
one of the things that's beloved about that movie, I think, is how you play that character and the jokes that you do at this point. But if it didn't do well at the time, where you're like, oh, did I undersell? Did I not do this for that?
I don't have that much power. I've long given up feeling like I have any control over whether people see the thing or like the thing, and I'm a terrible prognosticator at it too. Like I always look at stuff. The stuff that I think is going to be great is often terrible. The stuff that I think is going to be terrible is often great. Stuff I think is going to be a hit disappears. So I'm good with any of it at this point because I'm actually really proud of it all. You know, even the stuff where I stink, I'm proud of the fact that I took on a thing.
You have stuff
and had the courage to stink at something. You know what I mean? Because that takes a lot of courage sometimes too. Is to go, I'm going to try and do this thing and be awful at it.
You feel like you have some stuff where you've stunk?
Oh, I got some stinkers in there. Yeah. I'm not gonna name them because I don't want to hurt anyone else's feelings. You know, there might be some other people on the project that didn't think they stank, but
well, not the project itself. You're talking about specifically what you did on the project.
Yeah, I've got some clunkers in there.
Is that something that you noticed while you were doing it, or afterwards you were like, oh, I didn't, this?
No,
this
afterwards. Afterwards, usually. I mean, not to get too far into the twisted domain of an actor's psyche, because it's just a great big ball of narcissism. But
dig into that. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. There is definitely a thing where you're constantly both really enamored of yourself and feeling like you're failing at every juncture. That's like how we work. That's what we do. It's who we are.
Actors are exaggerated versions of other people, I think, in a lot of ways. And you're also expected to perform as exaggerated versions of other people, and that shit. There's a reason that you do it for a living is because that is actually lingering in your brain.
Yeah, it's just the moving parts. And I think you watch people and all the moving parts are fun to watch. Where was I going with this? I don't quite remember. Yeah,
but I
really
enjoyed,
good, though.
I enjoyed digging into the actor's brain.
Really good.
Yeah.
We'll have to rewind tape.
When it comes to playing Loudermilk, you get on set, you're working with Peter Farrelly, and you're dealing with sobriety, you're dealing with addiction issues. Are those things that you reached out to people to talk to people about or to think about, to sort of get some real takes on it?
I did. I mean, I of course have, had people in my personal life and my work life that have been really forthcoming and helpful about their experiences with that. I tried to go. I went to some meetings just to get a little sense of the nuts and bolts and how it felt. Our meetings are not true to AA meetings. We're sort of like, we're not AA. We're like the AA's dysfunctional cousin. So anyone who's not familiar with the AA program, don't watch our show and think that that's how it works.
Don't be dismayed.
Don't be dismayed.
If you're struggling, don't be dismayed.
No. Hang in there. Hang in there. No, I think the key to it going into it was not to deal it as if we're dealing with a serious topic, because to me that's always the death of comedy, and it's. To be honest, I think it's the death of good drama, too. Like, whenever you decide, well, we're making a very important, serious movie, you're not, actually. You're just making a movie that's going to stink. You have to come at a topic and go where it leads you, So I think we wanted to look at this as like, yes, it's about addiction and it's about recovery, but, at the root of it, all that really is it's people who have, snarled up their lives, gotten taken over by something they can't control anymore, let everybody they know down, and then hit bottom and found a place where they're all going to come together and try to make it a little bit better with the unlikely help of each other. Which to me, that's the fun of the whole thing. That's both the magic to me of any kind of 12-step recovery thing and of, our kind of show, is the very people who got themselves into this mess to begin with are the ones that are supposed to help you get out of it. But it works because those are the people that they know where you're coming. You know, when you walk into that meeting room from the first time and you're like, well, I don't have a problem, and what am I doing? They look at you and they're like, because they were there. They know exactly how you feel, and they know what's going through your mind, and they can tell you things.
They know what the stages are a lot of the time as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think it's also that's kind of what all of life is a little bit. We're kind of like these people on the sidewalk. They're just, they're banging around with each other and walking down. They've all got their story. What's her deal? She's on her phone. She walks right by that woman who's, got hurt. It's, you know what I mean? So it's interesting to me.
I like that where the comedy comes from in this is not necessarily situational. It's the fact that these guys, as you said, to use your words, have been snarled up by life, and because of that, they have a kind of gallows sense of humor.
Yes.
Like the comedy comes from their own sort of cynical, bleak perspective on life, but at the same time, they're trying to exist and live at the same time.
Yeah, well, because they've all found themselves to be very untrustworthy. You know what I mean? They can't trust themselves not to walk into the bar and set the whole program back. But they have to try to trust themselves, and they have to try to trust each other.
I have to. So I brought up Office Space for a second before. You make this movie. It kind of bombs at the times, and then over the course of a decade, it really kind of becomes a cultural artifact.
Yeah, it was a slow burn.
Which you probably saw very little of.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, no, it was glacial. It succeeded at a glacial pace.
When did you start to notice that? When did you first start getting noticed in the street for it?
I don't even remember. It was a good 4 or 5 years in. I remember. I think the moment I was like, this is interesting, was when you started seeing pieces in USA Today about people hosting parties and watching the movie. And it was like, wow, okay, so we're all right. Are we Rocky Horror? What's happening? What's going on? But I think it's really. It's just Comedy Central, really. Once that put it out there, we were a lot of people got to see the movie that just were never gonna see it in the newspaper and decide to go, but they're just flipping through, and there it is. And there's something about that movie that hooks you and keeps you in.
It's weird though that every actor, every filmmaker hopes to make or be a part of a classic at some point.
Yeah.
And Office Space, I think, is a classic at this point.
For me, it is anyway. I mean, on my resume, I point to it.
But I would imagine after it was done, you had no idea that it was going to be a classic, or that you had been a part of a classic. What was your feeling when you had finished making it?
I didn't see it until 3 days before.
3 days before it was released.
3 days before it was released, I snuck into I don't know, not a focus group, but a press screening or something, and I actually got to see it. And I was like, this is great. This is a great movie. But I'm also from the Midwest, So I was like, wow.
Judge from the Midwest as well?
He's from Albuquerque.
Right, okay.
That's its own weird thing. New Mexico, that's a whole other thing. So, when I was going, this is a great movie, man. Everybody I know back home is going to love this when they see it in 3 years in the $2 theater, because that's when they're going to see it, right? It's not going to play, first of all, in a lot of places.
Oh, the Second Run Movie House. Do you guys even know
Second
what Second Run
Movie
Houses
House,
are?
Yeah, no, you live in New York. How would you know how the Second Run Movie House works?
They were the coolest things in the world.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
$2 movies.
$2 movies, man. All the best movies from 4 years ago.
Or in 1999, you could still see Titanic at it or something, or
Yeah.
in the year 2000.
Yeah. So I mean, I did actually predict to myself. I don't say predictions to anybody else because then you just look dumb. But I predicted to myself. I was like, people are gonna like this movie eventually when they see it. But I don't expect it to be anytime soon.
Did you gain a little weight to play Loudermilk?
No. I don't mean maybe, possibly, probably. Yeah. I let myself go a little bit. But I really haven't stopped letting myself go, so I don't know. It might just be the photography. Maybe I'm just bloated. I don't know.
Is that fun when you get to do a movie where you can kind of just, or a show where you can kind of just let yourself go the whole time? You don't have to worry about it?
That's for me. That's most shows, especially at this point in my career. The only time that I ever tried to specifically gain weight was I was playing Elvis Presley for this little independent movie, like Fat Bloated Elvis, and so I tried.
What movie was that?
I see it called. It's one of those that disappeared that I thought was going to be amazing. It's called Shangri-La Suite. It's like on. It's an iTunes movie at this point, but I think it's phenomenal. Anyway, it's. It was that way. I thought that was going to be really fun. I was going to just pack on 10 pounds, but it's really hard. It's a lot easier to put on 10 pounds than it is to take off 10 pounds, and so I probably would not try to do that again.
What's been the toughest role that you've had over the course of your career? That was the biggest challenge for you.
That was the scariest one, actually, because I was like, I'm going to play Elvis Presley, really? Oh God, this is going to be terrible. But that one was.
Because Elvis requires a fair amount of sort of noticeable caricature in some way.
It's just got a lot of buy-in. You can't half-ass that. You gotta, you're all in. You're either all in pulling it off, or you're all in looking like an idiot. So to me, it was. I just took it as a win that I was kind of able to jump off the cliff and try to do it. And there's parts of it that I really like. So, yeah.
Let's get some questions from the audience. Who has a question?
Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
So I know besides your comedic work, you've done some serious roles as well, like Band of Brothers or your stint on Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
I was wondering, do you find it more enjoyable being able to do comedic roles, or do you also enjoy doing, other genres as well?
I don't actually approach them all that differently. That's a great. Band of Brothers is a great example because a lot of what my job on that was to do was to be comic relief. I had little cracks and quips, and whereas on Office Space, everyone else was like, making really funny things, and a lot of my job was just to be despondent and miserable. So it's a little bit of the same thing as an actor. You're just kind of saying, what is this? How would I feel at this moment? How would I behave? The only difference I would say is that when you're doing something funny, when you're doing a comedy, it's got to be funny first. That's non-negotiable. And then if it makes sense and and you have something to take away with it, that's do that on your own time. And drama works the opposite way. It's like it's got to be suspenseful, and you got to hit the plot beats right, and do the surprises. But and if you want to be clever and funny, you can slip that in, but don't slow the day down to do that. So it's really more other people's expectations than it is mine.
Next question.
Hi.
Hello.
So you mentioned that there were performances where you thought you could have been better, and I was wondering, as a performer, do you watch back the roles that you've already done and critique yourself that way, or are you more like in the moment, like, I could have done that better?
As little as possible. I do. I'll watch I'll watch almost everything at least once, and then see. I have a rare gift that I can watch something once, and then I can beat myself up over it for years to come without actually having to watch it again. And then maybe 5 or 6 years later, I'll look at it again and go, "Oh, that was, I should give myself a little more credit there or something." But no, I've got like this self-critical bone in me that I think is a big, a lot of it I get to unload that in this character. So I'm my worst critic. A lot of times, lately now, I try to just, I try not to watch it too much, Like I'll glance at it once, see if I'm doing something that I can change easily, but other than that, I just move on to the next one. Yeah, thank you. Good luck.
One more question.
Yes.
Hi. So with the Peter Farrelly being behind the show, how important is it when you choose a project who the people are behind it? Because some of the other projects you've done already had some big names behind them too.
Yeah, it's everything, actually. Like in TV, in TV, that guy is like running the schedule. Pete was directing. He was writing, if not writing all the episodes, he was, so everything. And this is the thing that I think a lot of times people don't take into account. He's hiring everybody else that's on set, right? So if you have sort of a toxic personality in that position, they're going to either surround themselves with sycophants or they're going to surround themselves with other toxic personalities. And the next thing you know, you're going to work at a place that's not a lot of fun to work at. And there's this war of egos going on. Pete is not like that at all. He had a no a-holes policy, as he described it. Everybody was lovely. I think it was helpful to us that we shot in Vancouver, so most everybody was Canadian. It's really hard to find difficult people in Canada. I don't know where they put them. So it was great. It was great. And Pete does a really cool thing too. Is everybody gets to play. I don't know if you picked up in the clip, but like we've got stuff where we've got physically disabled people, we've got mentally disabled people coming in, we've got and ordinarily you're like, well, they're not invited to the party because we're only allowed to respond to them with pity, and that's not Pete's thing. Pete's like, no, they get to come. They get to roll around on the floor with the rest of us, and we're all in this together.
The Farrellys have always been so fantastic about that, and all of their work going back to, I would say Something About Mary, even before that, which is in being incredibly inclusive of abled and disabled people, and also letting them be part of the joke, in on the joke, they're a part, they're in everything, and nobody puts kids gloves on with them.
Yeah, no, they take their shots like everybody else, and they dish their shots out like everybody else. Yeah. It's kind of awesome.
Ron, I love the show. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It premieres October 17th at 8 p.m., right? On the Audience Network?
Tonight.
Oh, that's tonight?
It's tonight. 10:30.
I have no idea
it's
what day it is.
10:30 Eastern. It's on the Audience Network, which if you didn't know, because I didn't before a year and a half ago, it's on DirecTV. If you have DirecTV Dish, you have it. If you have AT&T Uverse, you have it. And if you don't, you've got to find a 14-year-old to download an app for you. At least I would have to. I don't know.
Ron Livingston, everybody. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you.